What's up, all you party people? It's the last time I'm going to be able to do that. I've done it for a couple videos, and I did it for my Patreon sitting meditation sit last night, which some of you... you know what? I'm not going to start the video over. Okay. I'm a little bit depressed today. I was going to start the video over again, but I'm just going to be honest. I'm a little bit depressed. And I want to talk about the spiritual work ethic. But first I'm wearing my my slippers. I've become so European. You do not enter a house in Europe without having your little slippers there. And you slip into your slippers like an old oppa. And that's what I feel like today. I feel like an old oppa. I woke up this morning and I looked at myself in the mirror and I thought, who's that old man? Well, it was me. So I'm a little bit depressed, but I figure out what. So, okay, we're going to talk about spiritual work ethic, and I'm going to segue into that from a little bit of a story here. So, a few days ago, I had a situation with a crazy person, and that crazy person situation is tied to my existential well-being. So, a crazy person is threatening my situation. I'll just be vague and leave it at that. And I got really stressed about it. And then I remembered that my girlfriend has some Xanax that was just blithely given to her by a doctor at one point who misdiagnosed her. Anyways, that's a whole nother story. So I was like, I'm gonna pop a Xanax, right? Now, generally speaking, Zen monks, people who are on this path, shouldn't screw around with intoxicants, okay? Shouldn't screw around with pills that were given to somebody else for reasons having to do with their health, right? But every once in a while, I pop a pill. That's my approach to drugs. I don't do them ever, except for when I do. So here's the deal, though. I took the Xanax. It had whatever effect it had. But one of the reasons I kind of do occasionally dip my toe in these waters, these chemical waters, is because it's interesting for me to see the effect that it has on my mind. So one thing I've noticed is that maybe it's an age thing. As I get older, I can't quite get away with it anymore, in the sense that I took Xanax, it was a few days ago, and now I'm feeling the effects. So it calmed me down, I guess. I didn't really notice. For a day, half a day and a day, somewhere in there, cooled me off, my temperament, but now there's a dip in my mood. And I've noticed this sort of thing before when I do different kinds of substances. It will really shoot my mood up in a direction towards focus or towards relaxing or towards not having anxiety. It will deliver a different mindset. But then when I hit my balance a day, day and a half, 2 days later, there's a bill to pay. There's a check to pay, okay, at the end of the night. And I'm paying that check today for the Xanax that I took. My mood is down. I'm a little bit anxious and jittery. So it's an interesting thing. Now, taking a pill to make yourself feel better is very different than being on a spiritual path, okay? Or having a meditation practice. A meditation practice is a lifestyle, and it's something you give yourself to and you commit to over a long period of time, okay? And to do this, you have to have what I'm calling today a spiritual work ethic. Okay, so what is that? As I mentioned yesterday, I did a sit, an online sit, here in front of this fake electric fire with my patrons, okay? And I was honest with my patrons afterward. I told them that the sit was not good. Probably because I had taken this Xanax the day before and it knocked me off balance, maybe electrochemically up in my noodle. Whatever the case, the sitting was difficult. My back was very stiff. My neck felt like it was filled with pudding or some kind of pea fog, right? Like that heavy feeling behind the eyes that you just want to sleep for 25 minutes instead of just sitting. And in the past, this bad or less than optimal sit might have scared me a little bit, or once again thrown me into a state of doubt about whether or not meditation works, which was something I dealt with a lot when I first started practicing. So there's a phase, perhaps in the beginning of one's practice, where you're not really doing it yet. You're auditioning the tradition and its practices to see whether or not it's worth your time, effort, and energy. When you invest in 25 minutes of meditation or a 7-day session retreat or a longer period of practice at a monastery as I did, there's a part of you that is kind of clinging to the shore, as it were, so that you can jump off the ship if this raft of practice doesn't seem to be going anywhere or doing anything positive for you. So like I said, you're auditioning the practice, right? This is an amateurish approach. Here's how to think about it. You're going to have quote-unquote bad days as a meditator. And then you're going to have days where you are Buddha on that cushion. You sit down and you're breathing in and you're breathing out and you're totally alert, awake. There are no thoughts buzzing around like angry wasps inside your head. There's this total connection to your surroundings without suffering. And then you're like, this is how it should always be. But it's not how it always is. And it's not how it always should be. Don't sit down on the cushion with an expectation for an outcome. I once did stand-up comedy at a gay bar, and I met this kind of goofy, outgoing dude who was slinging drinks behind the bar. And he confessed / humble bragged / shared that that this guy, this kind of goofy looking dude, had slept with well over 1,000 men. And he offered his interpretation of this spectacular achievement, which was, I have no attachment to an outcome. I just meet a guy and I get friendly. And that's it. I don't expect to sleep with them. And I wrote that out and I typed it out. I typed it, I printed it out, I cut it out, and I put it in my writing folder. No attachment to an outcome. Now, we are not speaking of sleeping with thousands of men here. We are talking about meditation. When I say a work ethic having to do with spiritual practice, I'm not only talking about how you have to bring yourself to the cushion consistently, day after day, week after week, year after year. I'm more talking about what you bring with you when you come to the cushion. So I really have found for myself that coming to the cushion with no expectation is how I manifest a good spiritual work ethic. Now, some days are by design of the human character going to be bad. It's kind of like when I'm working on a creative project. So the other day, I'm working on a new book now, and it's scary, and of course I have all my insecurities, etc. And I really want the words on the page to start sounding good right away. But I've learned that you can't do that. You have to put a little sweat equity into the notebook first. So you have to ad lib and start free writing and focus and try. Really give yourself to the idea. Try and extract the essence of what you're shooting for as a writer. And this takes work. And you can spend days trying to get the thing going, right? Now, in the past, I might get a good sentence and I would tweak it for a few hours and try and add a few more sentences that sound really good. Now, that's not good work ethic. It's working from fear. Okay? It's working from a fear of failure. And when you work from a fear of failure, it's not a good work ethic. It's not a good creative work ethic, and it's not a good spiritual work ethic. Now, my theory on sitting meditation is you can't do Zazen, right? Your job is to take the posture, and I've done other videos on Zazen posture, so you can watch those. I think I have one called the 10-minute meditation sit. You can watch that one for posture and stuff. This is just to say that your job when you sit is not to do Zazen. Zazen might show up, it might not, but your job is to take the posture, to have your mudra, to sit upright with your chin up, to be continually sitting, just sitting, right? To take the posture. And part of taking the posture is when your mind drifts into distracted thinking or nervous, anxious emotions, the practice is to catch yourself, or the catching itself happens on its own, right? We don't cause it. We awaken to the fact that we're thinking. We see it, right? And then to give ourselves back to the posture and breath. And we do this over and over and over. We just do the work of sitting. If Zazen shows up, wonderful. You know, we're like a flag. If the wind comes and blows us and makes us reveal our beautiful colors and stripes and stars, beautiful. But our job is just to do the posture, right? Maybe we will be animated by an insight. Maybe we will be enlightened by a lightning bolt of Satori coming down from heaven. Who can say? Our job is a really humble one. And so the spiritual work ethic is a humble ethic. The word hummus, of course, comes from the word humus, which means of the earth. I've been thinking a lot about that lately. The earth. When you sit, you've got your cushion down on the ground, on the earth. And you're not up in the clouds. You're not up in the heavens, right? You're down on the earth. You're there again. Taking your posture, doing posture with as much sincerity and lack of emotional and mental baggage as you can. And the way to do posture and breath, i.e. just sitting or Zazen, the way to do that without baggage, I've found, is to put my attention into the posture. Do you see? It's not thinking about posture. It's not thinking about the Four Noble Truths. It's not thinking about whether I'm sitting right. It's not judging my practice. It's not judging the tradition. It's not getting mad at myself when those fears come up that maybe don't have a chance to express themselves through my body and my mind and my spirit during the average day because I'm so busy working and, hustling and eating and performing myself to the world, right? A lot of times that stuff that's buried deep down in me can't come up in that context. And so sometimes it comes up when I'm sitting, and you just let it come up, don't judge it. The practice isn't to try and make something else happen that's happening in the moment of sitting. We just do the posture. We just do the breath. We just sit in the moment exactly as it is. And we do this day after day after day. And some days are boring. And some days are beautiful. And some days are somewhere in between. And some days are real bad. Some days we get an itch. I had a patron recently, Norbert. He asked me, what do I do when I have itches? Because I can't sit still for very long without itching. And I said to him, there are two kinds of itches. Itches in your body and itches in your mind. You can always sit through an itch in your body. But it's the itches in the mind that are more difficult. And sometimes you can't tell the difference between the two. So when you take your posture and you do your breath and you do your sitting practice, maybe you can't sit for more than 5 minutes without scratching something or without moving. Okay, then sit for 5 minutes, maybe 4 times. But commit to a period of time that you can commit to when you're doing your Zazen meditation sitting practice. Commit to a period of time that you can commit to where you will just sit no matter what comes up. You will just do the posture. And if the Zazen shows up, great. But your job is to hold your body a certain way without moving, without giving in to distractions and whatnot and so forth, right? So that's spiritual work ethic for me. My experience is that you become the kind of person that can do something by doing it. It doesn't really matter what your mindset is necessarily beforehand. This is especially the case with Zazen, Zen meditation. It's closer to dancing than like standing in front of a chalkboard and working out a complex math equation. So what do you do with dancing? You lead with your body. Dancing is kind of an inspirited movement. And Zazen meditation is the same thing in a sense, but you're not moving. It's inspirited stillness. But you're doing it with your body. So you don't have to bring a mindset to the cushion with you. You don't have to know anything about Buddhism. In fact, it helps not to. You don't have to know anything about Buddhism. Just trust your Buddhanature. You got it in you. The teachings make sense after you practice for a while. In my experience, before I practiced, they were all just words that meant nothing really. They make sense down the road. And then when you become kind of a teacher yourself, you start giving the teachings because they make sense and they're kind of a toehold as you climb up the rock face of practice, right? But the truth is, it all starts and it continues with you physically putting your body on the cushion and taking 5 minutes or 20 minutes out of your busy life to give yourself to this posture. It's simple. It's simplifying. Zen has few moving parts, my teacher used to say. That's one of the great gifts of it. You don't even have to repeat your mantra, or say your Our Father or your Hail Mary, or you don't even have to say one word like the Christians in the Father Thomas Keating tradition do. They focus on a word and they say, just posture and breath, right? Take the posture and give yourself to that physical activity. You're doing a physical activity when you sit. You're doing sitting, right? It's an activity. It's an activity. So again, think of it more as like dancing as opposed to a complex philosophical problem or one of those riddles you have to figure out. There's 5 people on an island and there's one boat. If that, like those, no, it's not like that. I tend to be someone who gets a little bit too much in his head, and so I find it's very helpful for me to continue to think this way. Which is to say, to not think. When I sit down on the cushion, to have an intention and an aim. Now I'm sitting. I'm leaving the concerns of the world and my overactive brain activity behind. I'm doing a physical activity right now. The very simple thing, sitting. Tibetan teacher I heard once talked about the integrity of you as a person on your cushion, letting mind drop away and personality and concerns of the moment drop away like a gleaming Buddha on your cushion. Yes, that's you. That's you. The teachings get romantic and sparkling, and the sutras seem to be speaking about a chimerical creature called Shakyamuni that's totally separate from us, but that's just the trick that the tradition uses to excite people and get them to find their Buddhanature. But you have to find it through your spiritual work ethic, which is a very humble, yeah, anyways, you get the point. One last thing. I recently completed a novel. It took me a long time to write it, and many were the days that I struggled and produced nothing of quality. And yet now I have this large stack of papers that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, has some great sentences, has some slow spots. It is a kind of version of myself as a writer that didn't exist on any one of those particular days over the long period of time where I wrote this book. But finally, at the end, that writer exists. And you have like a practice self. And it's big picture. It takes place over a long period of time through a humble daily commitment to doing the work. And then over a period of time, you begin to manifest this this project, this spiritual project, right? But think of your practice not down at the ground level. Think of it at the 50,000 foot level, right? So when you have a bad day sitting at the cushion, that's not who you are. Don't get stuck on that. Don't get scared. Don't get frustrated. Don't start questioning the practice or yourself, or at least I have found that not to be very helpful. That's just another day, clocked another day on the cushion, in a much bigger picture of a Buddha, if you will, that is manifesting over a practice lifetime. That's how I found it helpful to look at it more in that sense. It gives me two things: humbleness and confidence at the same time. And maybe it will work for you too. Friends, that's all I got for you today. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy or get something out of these videos, you can go here to patreon.com/showsonjackhobner to support this channel. I've got essays up there. I've got blog posts. I've got a Sunday sitting thing that we do, and I hope you'll join me for that. It's really fun. We sit, we do a little Zazen instruction, and then we sit. And then we sit again, and then I give a little kind of a Zen talk. So if you want to be a part of that, you can go to patreon.com/showsonjackhobner. There's also the opportunity to to donate to this channel through PayPal, and there's a link to my PayPal page in the video description. Otherwise, you can hit subscribe and hit like. Friends, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.